It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, I'm Gary Shorman, and welcome to the Forum on Eagle Television. It's good to have you watching along as the Forum program is brought to you by Hayes Med. Have a brand new gentleman to our program. His name is Rip Winkel, and Rip is the new Ellis County horticulturist agent. Boy, I almost butchered that, didn't I? I think I did actually do that. Horticulture in Ellis County. Barton County is also part of your district. What brings you here?
Well, I was most recently living in Denver and helping out my mom with, my pa was ailing, so I was helping her out. Mm-hmm. And he passed away, so I was kind of like, okay, I need to get back into my career. So I was looking through the job listings in the internet and came across this one that was being offered in Hayes through the Kansas State University as the horticultural agent for this county. And I said, as I read it, I'm like, whoa, this encompasses everything I've had my fingers in for most of my life as far as work is concerned. So I applied for it, and then a couple weeks later they called me up and wanted to know if I wanted to interview. So I said, yeah, heck yeah.
Well, you have an interesting background. Had a chance to kind of read some of your background, but you spent time in different parts of the world.
Yes.
You cover different areas, and you bring sort of a brand new outlook. Tell me a little bit about your background. I know you were in Ecuador for a while, but tell me a bit about some of your experience.
Some time ago when I was working on my undergrad, I graduated from Texas A&M, and I got a job with Del Monte. Mm-hmm. And that job took me to Guatemala. And that's my first taste of actually working and living in another country. And I was down there for 2.5 years going through a training program on how to basically run a banana plantation, and then they transferred into cantaloupe because the banana market at the time was not doing too well. Mm-hmm. So that was my first experience, and then I had a little stunt doing a subcontracting job in Hawaii, working a bromeliad farm. And then when I went back to get my master's, I found out that they had a program with the Peace Corps. Mm-hmm. It's called Peace Corps Master's International Program, and you do all your classes that are whatever the subject you're studying. And when you're done with the classes, except for your dissertation or thesis writing, you go and spend 2 years on assignment in whatever country that you get assigned to. And mine happened to be Ecuador, because at that time I spoke Spanish, and it was just more convenient to go to a Latin country. Mm-hmm. So I was down in Ecuador for a couple of years, and I happened to live in a village in the west side, down in the plains where they grow all the cacao trees. And I worked on a cacao tree farm, and I did my thesis working with cacao and soil, interrelationships between the soil and the cacao.
Well, I had to ask you how you say cacao, right? And explain what's going on. And for those of you who don't know, that's what actually turns into cocoa. At some point there's a magic wand comes along and it turns into cocoa.
Yeah, cacao is a tree, a tropical tree, and it grows and it produces these big pods, but they're really not a pod. It's called a mazorca in Spanish, and it's full of seeds, and they take the seeds out and they ferment them to get rid of the white mucus around it. Mm-hmm. But the fermentation actually adds to the flavor. And then after it's been fermented, they dry it out, they clean them, and they grind them up, and that's what you get, cocoa. And when you squeeze that, you get an oil, which is what they call cocoa butter, and that's usually shipped off to the candy companies to make candy. And what's left is this hard, bulky thing, and they grind that up and sell it as cocoa, and that's what you make your hot chocolate out of in the kitchen, or you add to cake mixes or whatever.
Well, what's interesting, reading your background, you talk about, from being around the world, being a horticultural agent, brings you to Ellis County and says, now you're in charge of our horticulture here and helping us do a better job of raising plants, finding plants that survive, finding things that work.
It's definitely not cacao.
It's not cacao. We thought, can we do that here? No, we can't, because of the arid part of that. What have you learned? You've been here since first week in November. Mm-hmm. What have you learned about our area so far?
What I've learned is, actually, it's very dry here, a lot drier than I thought it would be. And so that actually has given me an idea of which way to aim, because I'm still trying to get my feet on the ground. There's so much to entail with this position, and also including Barton County at the same time, because they have a little bit different of a climate. So And my effort basically is going to be trying to work with people in the sense of how can we conserve water and how can we increase our situation as far as landscape and whatnot, using more, not just xeriscape, but methods that would definitely conserve water.
Well, you look at that, obviously, you look at both community-wise and both of our towns. Great Bend has more water under the ground than what we do here at Hayes. And conservation is so very important to what we do here. But yet nobody wants a rock yard. And so finding those
And I definitely would
plans-
not recommend a rock yard because if you, for instance, gravel, those who put gravel down, it's actually very nice, but I hope they know what they're getting into in about 5 or 6 years down the line. It's a nightmare to have to clean it or to dig it out.
Yeah, and then once you do that, it's like, boy, why did I do that?
You'll never do it again.
But yeah, when you talk about xeriscape, sometimes that's what comes into play, and so that's
Xeriscape
one
is
of the
just
challenges. that
less
goes.
water and being more efficient. It's not necessarily doing desertscape. It's just being much more efficient. For instance, I've noticed a lot of wall-to-wall or property line to property line grass yards here. Is that necessary, or can we reduce the amount of grass and do a nice landscape using 40%, maybe 50% of the yard in grass, and the rest of it in mulch, trees and bushes, which are under a drip line, and therefore you're reducing maybe 20, 30%. I don't know the exact statistics, but you could reduce a lot of water consumption by reducing the amount of grass that you have and going to drip.
One of the things I know from your background is you got into some different environments, whether it be bananas or otherwise, that you really kind of had to be a quick learner to get involved with that. I assume that's going to come into play here after you spend a few months kind of ascertaining what we have and what we need and then putting that into play.
Yeah, a lot of experiences. Most recently, well, since I graduated, just before I got my master's, I was doing kind of a subcontracting, self-employed type thing where I do landscaping. And I did a lot of landscaping in West Texas, which is desert. And so you have to come up with plants and ways of doing things that are just not necessarily tropical, because cacao has to grow in places that's a ton of water. But this would become a new challenge for me in the sense that trying to plug in and bring what I learned in West Texas and in Arizona when I was doing cantaloupe in Arizona, to bring those and incorporate them into the situation here.
So what do you have for support? You know, you come from a different area. Who supports you and who helps you with ideas and who brings some of those? Or is that up to you to go out and do to chase down the right thing?
I've got colleagues that I work with that are extremely helpful, and the person that worked in my position before me, Holly Dickman, she's incredibly helpful and just like telling me where things are and advising me. And like I said, my colleagues and that are in this extension agency, they're very, very helpful.
Now, I saw something here and really didn't know exactly what the Cottonwood District was until a little bit of research. It's the Great Bend and Hayes area.
Right.
How is that set up and how is that funded? Do you work for both communities or do you work for
Basically,
a district?
yes. What it is traditionally the extension agencies are basically each county. And due to financial situations, whatnot, is to the advantage of the extension agency and to the community, actually, to start having counties join together, whether it's 2 counties, 3 counties, or I think there's even one district that's 4 counties that they have tied together. And so I strive my goal is to put 50% of my time into Ellis County and then 50% of my time into Barton County. And the programs that I do up here, I will do also down there and tweak according to the need and what's going on.
It'll be interesting to find out because I want to take a break. We want to come back, Rip, and talk a little bit about what you plan for 2018 because you have a few months here that you had a chance to learn in 2017, so 18 is off to a quick start already.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What are your plans and how will people go about finding you to come up with and really talk about some of these ideas? Our guest is Rip Winkel here on the Forum Program. The Forum Program is brought to you by Hayes Med. Back after this.
Hayes Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hayes Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hayes Med, helping people be healthy.
Are you frustrated with Wi-Fi dead zones in your home? It happens when you don't have Boost, the cutting-edge Wi-Fi solution from Eagle Communications. A Boost-certified Eagle technician maps your home, then installs a dual-band modem and router, plus discrete access points to deliver wall-to-wall Wi-Fi with no dead zones. Boost powers all your family's devices in all the places you love to live. Get Boost. Wi-Fi made simple. Only from Eagle Communications. Call today.
Welcome back to the second half of our forum program right here on Eagle TV. It's great to have you watching along. Our guest is Rip Winkel, and Rip is the new Ellis County horticultural agent. And you know what? If you have ideas, suggestions, maybe some follow-up to this program, I'd like to hear from you. Find me at gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. Don't put an E in Shorman, that'll mess things up. gary.shorman@eaglecom.net, or you can find us on Facebook under ECTV Forum. ECTV Forum. Again, our guest is Rip Winkel, and Rip, good to have you. You're new to our community as of November 1st, learning about horticulture in our area, also in Great Bend, and we went into the break, talked about, okay, you're brand new to a community, which I think gives you a great opportunity to look outside maybe what's been talked about before, some other ideas you have. Are there some specific plants, trees that you'd say, hey, that might really work in this kind of area?
Yes, there are a couple ideas I'd like to try. I don't know if they're going to work. I actually have to find someone who's willing to try these out for me. But for instance, what can be used in place of turf to reduce the consumption of water in this county? And so one idea is to come up with is take an area and plant juniper horizontalis, which is a very low ground hugging juniper, and it comes in green, blue, and kind of turns purple. And everyone can see areas around town that has this, but the concept of doing it in a grass area instead of grass, and the water consumption would be reduced immediately right there by doing something. This would probably take a year or two to get it established, but it would be very, very interesting and very low maintenance. Another idea, and I am working towards finding some places to do a couple of trials with a tree called Ziziphus jujube.
I'll let you say that one. It sounds
Ziziphus jujuba.
And what is it? What does that tree look like?
It's a beautiful tree. It's
Looks
got
like a tree?
yeah, it's a tree. It's got kind of waxy leaves, and it only gets up to about 30 feet at most. It does have thorns, but they're not really aggressive thorns like you would find on a locust tree. But it takes alkaline soil, it takes drought conditions, and it produces a fruit. It's about the size of a date, or a little bit bigger than a date. Tastes like an apple, not juicy, but there's a lot of things you can do with it. And so you could have a landscape tree that's really beautiful, not aggressively large, takes the soil and the water situation we have, and it produces a fruit that you could make jelly, you can make sauces, make candy out of it actually. So that's one of the ideas. Another idea that I have that I'd like to try, and I'm going to be doing experimentation on it. And then of course there's also vegetable and fruit gardens. I'm always into that, but I'd like to take the idea of incorporating edibles. For instance, there are a lot of vegetables you can grow that are really kind of pretty, and incorporate them into your landscape where your perennials or your annuals are planted. And so you have a landscape, and it's very nice to the house, but you can also at the same time, during parts of the summer, go out and harvest your greens for dinner, like Swiss chard or lettuce in the springtime or even in the fall. But it's incorporated into the landscape, so it's actually beautifying your house, and it provides food.
Well, talk a little bit about what your plans are, because here at the start of 2018, you're the new guy. You're in charge of horticulture. People want to find out. They have their maple tree, like one I have. It's like, how do you get more iron in the ground efficiently for a maple tree that after a few years they suck all of the iron out and then they tend to die?
Yeah.
How are you planning to deal with questions that come in and new ideas that you want to take out?
I'm going to deal with the questions the best I can, and I'm actually hoping that I can maybe get a little help on answering the telephone when they start coming in this spring. But basically, I'll take the questions and do research if I have to on each one, and basically all the answers that I will give will be based on actual research that's been done by KSU or other agricultural schools, but primarily KSU, so that the information I give out is accurate.
When you take a look at, areas, whether it be Hayes, the amount of water we have, Great Bend, and then you draw a line kind of north and south, there's a whole area of our country that kind of fit into this arid type of low water kind of usage areas, and I think you found some of that in West Texas.
Oh yeah, yeah. West Texas is actually a lot drier than it is here. Here, I believe your average is around 20 inches, and down there, you're lucky if you get 12 inches, where I was living in the Big Bend area. And the heat, though, is the element, is they are able to grow crops down there, not crops, but certain plants in the landscape that cannot handle the cold here. So that's my challenge, is finding plants that deal with the soil, deal with the dryness, but also can handle the cold in the wintertime.
One of the other issues that come out, we see that every once in a while, you'll see certain infestations of different bugs or things that come through, that will just kill a whole section of trees, whether they be junipers, whether they be certain pine, whether they be elm is another one. That's another thing that has to come into play, and I'm guessing you've been through some research on some of those as well.
Well, right off the hand, my first, and it's a preference, because I like to do a little bit of landscaping. Don't get me wrong, I like to do my farming, vegetables and fruits, but is don't do one plant. If you're going to do a wall of some sort, or you're trying to create a curtain, do a variety of plants that take different evergreens, or add some deciduous trees in there, but do some different things. So if a disease comes along, or a blight of some sort comes along and takes out a tree, your whole wall or your whole backyard won't be taken down at one time. That you have one plant to replace instead of everything. So and by mixing it, you actually create, you're imitating nature and how nature's already formed by having a variety of different plants growing. So that's the first thing I take off with thinking of that about. But it's always to be on top. I've got to be watching to make sure that when there are plagues are coming in or insects are coming in, to be able to provide information, solutions, and know that it's coming down our way.
Well, I know we have in the past have done and worked with other horticultural agents to do programs to talk about these things. I hope we continue to do that. How else can people find you to be able to ask questions? What's the best way for them to find you?
Well, I'm down on Main Street at 601 Main Street in our office, the extension agency, and or you can call me, and the number is, I don't know what the number is.
We'll put the number on the bottom. That's what you get for being new.
Yeah, I'm a newbie.
When you're new, you get to do that, but you can certainly stop by, and sometimes it helps to bring by what they're talking about.
If it's infected, put it in a Ziploc bag when you bring it in, so it won't, you won't get it over everything, or especially insects, so we don't have to chase the insect down in the office. But yeah, come on down, you can bring it down, and you also can email me at rwinkel@ksu.edu.
So that's probably a good way to get that first conversation in, saying, hey, I have an issue with that. Here's what's going on. A lot of times you have to, go out and take a look at what is actually going on. And so I know you'll be doing back and forth. Are you going to do some public programs as well, or what are you thinking in your game plan for 2018? What is that?
It's just to continue getting my feet on the ground. I'd like to do some classes, whether it's in backyard gardening, community gardening, or even steps in how to landscape your yard, irrigation, installation, things like this. And just kind of like try to work towards what Holly was already doing and fill in her place there.
Well, that'll be fun. She did a great job, but it sounds like you're
incredible.
Coming in with a wealth of information to go up and really help us continue. I like your idea when you say, just don't fill your yard with rock, because sometimes people think xeriscape means you have a yard of rock, which isn't pleasant,
Oh no,
isn't pretty.
Xeriscape is just reducing water consumption.
And I hope you can help make that happen for a lot of people that are out there. Rip Winkel has been our guest here. He's brand new to Ellis County. Good to have you here, and
Thank
look
you.
forward to doing other programs with you and maybe some of the ideas you want to share with everyone. Whether it be from Ecuador or Texas A&M, we're welcome to new ideas along the line. So
That's right.
thanks so much. Rip Winkel is our guest. He's the new Ellis County horticulture agent here, and you can find him down on Main Street, 601 Main, right?
Yes, sir.
And that'd be the best place. And we'll have the number on here again to let you know how to get a hold of him via phone. Thanks for watching the Forum here on Eagle Television. Good to have you watching. The program is brought to you by Hayes Med and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications, our community connected.